The power of failure, a journey of resilience and growth. Failure, a word that carries weight, stigma, and often silence. In a world that celebrates success, we are rarely taught how to face its inevitable counterpart. And yet, failure is not a detour. It is part of the path. It is the ground from which resilience rises, the furnace where character is forged, and the mirror in which true growth is reflected. Today, we will not shy away from this topic. We will walk through it, honestly, thoroughly, and purposefully, because understanding failure is essential to mastering life itself. Whether you are rebuilding after a personal loss, reflecting on a missed opportunity, or standing on the edge of a new risk, this journey into failure is not about weakness. It is about power. The power to begin again. The power to rise. The power to transform. And in that transformation lies the greatness we all seek. Failure. The very word can evoke discomfort, fear, and even shame. Yet failure is not the end of the road. It is a bend in the path, a checkpoint that demands reflection, growth, and a renewed commitment to the journey ahead. In the professional world, in personal life, and in the quiet places where dreams are born, failure stands not as an enemy, but as a powerful teacher. Understanding failure is essential to unlocking our true potential. In fact, those who have succeeded at the highest levels, entrepreneurs, athletes, scientists, artists, have all stood face to face with failure. They did not retreat. They embraced it, studied it, and used it as fuel. In American culture, there is often a deep pressure to win, to succeed early, and to maintain an image of constant progress. But this relentless focus on success can overshadow the reality that failure is an unavoidable and even necessary part of any meaningful pursuit. No invention, breakthrough, or transformation occurs without missteps. Thomas Edison famously remarked that he did not fail 10,000 times when inventing the light bulb, but instead found 10,000 ways that did not work. That perspective is not just optimism. It is a mindset of resilience and perseverance. It is a refusal to be defined by defeat. Failure humbles us. It strips away the illusions we build about ourselves. It reveals the gap between who we are and who we aspire to be. That revelation, while uncomfortable, is profoundly valuable. It allows us to reassess our goals, refine our methods, and rebuild with greater clarity. Failure clears the noise and forces us to confront our weaknesses honestly. It teaches us where we were unprepared, where we lacked discipline, and where we underestimated the journey. In doing so, failure becomes not a dead end, but a mirror, one that reflects both our flaws and our potential. Every setback carries within it a hidden curriculum. There are lessons that only adversity can teach. When we fail, we are presented with an opportunity to develop character traits that are not easily built in times of success. Patience, fortitude, humility, and endurance. The discomfort we experience when we fall short can become the crucible in which our future strength is forged. If we avoid failure at all costs, we also avoid the very experiences that build resilience. Resilience, investigation of war. We become fragile, unwilling to stretch beyond the limits of certainty. But if we embrace failure as a teacher, we become adaptable, open-minded, and unshakably determined. Failure also reveals the authenticity of our desires. End of post. When you fall and get back up, you prove to yourself that your goal matters more than your pride. The act of returning to your mission after defeat shows conviction. It shows heart. Many people chase dreams until the first major obstacle appears, and then they retreat. It's not as close, and you are not actually better than your failure. It's not as close. But those who persist beyond failure are the ones who transform ambition into achievement. Their resilience is not born from luck or talent. It is born from a decision to keep going despite the evidence of recent defeat. There is a profound difference between failing and being a failure. One is an event, the other is an identity. And this is where many people fall into a dangerous trap. They allow failure to define them. They internalize the loss and begin to believe that it reflects their worth. But the truth is, failure is not final unless you surrender. A failed business does not mean you are incapable. A broken relationship does not mean you are unlovable. A rejected proposal does not mean your ideas are worthless.
These moments hurt, but they are not permanent. They are seeds in the story, not the end of the script. American history is filled with individuals who transformed failure into legacy. Abraham Lincoln lost multiple elections before becoming one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first job as a television reporter. Steve Jobs was ousted from the very company he helped create. These were not the endpoints of their journeys. They were turning points. They were moments of redirection, refinement, and recalibration. And the same is available to all of us. We must refuse to let our missteps become tombstones. Instead, they must become trail markers, pointing us to new paths. In the corporate world, failure can be particularly intimidating. Mistakes may lead to job loss, public scrutiny, or financial decline. But even in this context, the most innovative and successful companies understand the value of calculated failure. Organizations that foster environments of learning, where teams are encouraged to experiment and take responsible risks, often outperform those driven solely by fear of failure. Number 5. Available better messaging. Every free matching world and work on the contract basis. Leaders who admit their own errors create cultures of trust, creativity, and evolution. Failure, when framed correctly, becomes a catalyst for transformation, not a cause for shame. Let's not ignore the emotional impact of failure. It can be crushing. It can bring tears, self-doubt, and a temporary loss of direction. That pain is real, and it deserves to be acknowledged. But we must not dwell there. We must not let the weight of a single moment crush the possibilities of the future. Instead, we must process the pain, learn the lessons, and move forward with renewed strength. It's okay to be disappointed. Common rights are all in the mind, and certainly are better and ever agreed with renewed strength. It's okay to be disappointed. It brings the pressure of the best contact and insight with the best few of the best. It's okay to mourn the loss of what could have been, but it is not okay to give up on yourself. Each of us has a responsibility to rewrite our relationship with failure. Rather than viewing it as a sign to stop, we must learn to see it as feedback. We must examine it with curiosity instead of judgment. What went wrong? What can be improved? What part of this experience holds the key to future success? This mindset does not eliminate the sting of defeat, but it transforms how we respond to it. Number 1. FHF. The effect of defeat and of defeat. And over time, it shapes us into individuals who cannot be broken by setbacks, only refined by them. Failure has a unique way of exposing truth. It does not flatter. It does not deceive. It lays bare our level of preparation, our decision-making, and our character. That honesty is not an enemy. It is a gift. When things go wrong, when efforts collapse, when results do not match expectations, we are given an unfiltered snapshot of reality. In that moment, we have a choice to deny it, resent it, or embrace it. The most courageous individuals choose to embrace it, not because they enjoy failure, but because they understand what it offers in return: clarity, direction, and growth. One of the most dangerous misconceptions is that failure is linear or consistent. Sometimes we fail despite doing everything right. We prepare thoroughly, we act with integrity, we give our all, and still, the outcome isn't what we hoped for. This can be one of the most disheartening experiences. But even in those moments, failure is still shaping us. It is teaching us to persist, even when the reward is not guaranteed. It is forming in us the kind of mental and emotional toughness that separates leaders from followers, masters from dabblers, champions from dreamers. In the academic world, failure has long been stigmatized. A failed grade, a missed admission, a research setback. These are often interpreted as signs of inadequacy. Yet, some of the most brilliant minds in history faced repeated academic failure. In Failure Failed in History, End of the Winner, Albert Einstein didn't speak fluently until he was 9. His teachers doubted his potential, but his failures in formal systems gave way to breakthroughs that changed the course of physics. Failure does not close the door on genius. It simply challenges us to find new keys. And when education becomes a space that honors process over perfection, students learn not only how to pass tests, but how to think, how to fail with grace, and how to succeed with resilience. And entrepreneurs, failure is part of the culture. Startups live and die by trial and error. And founders pitch to dozens of investors, tweak business models endlessly, and watch ideas rise and fall like waves.
But what separates successful entrepreneurs is not their immunity to failure. It's their capacity to learn faster than others. Every failed product launch, every customer loss, every technical glitch is a classroom. The lessons are expensive, but they are also invaluable. Those who are willing to absorb them become stronger, sharper, and more effective with each attempt. Failure is also a filter. It reveals who is serious and who is simply curious. Many people explore paths, ideas, and goals because they are exciting in theory. They may respect them, but the moment reality pushes back, they abandon ship. Failure becomes the dividing line between the committed and the casual. When you fail and still choose to show up, you are proving, not to the world, but to yourself, that you are in this for the long haul. And that realization alone can become the bedrock of long-term success. There is also a spiritual dimension to failure. In moments of great disappointment, we are often stripped of the superficial things we cling to: status, ego, external validation. What remains is our character, our values, and our connection to something greater than ourselves. Many people find a deeper sense of purpose and meaning only after experiencing failure. The pain humbles them, but also opens their hearts to wisdom, compassion, and a broader view of life. In the silence that follows failure, many discover their truest voice. Relationships are not immune to failure either. Friendships falter, marriages end, trust is broken. These are some of the most painful failures a person can experience because they involve the heart. And yet, even here, failure teaches. It reveals our communication patterns, our emotional habits, our unmet needs. It challenges us to grow in empathy, to become better listeners, better partners, better human beings. Relationship failure can either leave us bitter or better. The difference lies in how we process it. In leadership, failure is inevitable.
No leader has ever executed every decision flawlessly. Mistakes are part of the territory. But great leaders own their failures. They don't deflect blame. They don't hide behind excuses. Instead, they acknowledge the misstep, gather insight, and communicate transparently. This builds trust, not because followers expect perfection, but because they respect honesty and growth. A leader who has failed and risen again becomes a source of strength for the team. Their scars tell a story of perseverance that theory alone cannot teach. Culturally, we must shift our view of failure. In American society, where performance is often tied to identity, failure can feel like a public sentence. But what if we celebrated the courage to try, more than the result? What if we honored the process as much as the prize? In doing so, we would unleash creativity, risk-taking, and innovation. We would encourage people to stretch beyond their comfort zones, without the fear of ridicule. A society that embraces intelligent failure is a society that moves forward with boldness and vision. On a personal level, failure builds emotional endurance. Life will not always be fair. Circumstances will change. People will disappoint us, and efforts will sometimes fall flat. But each time we get back up, we prove that we are stronger than the situation. This emotional muscle, the ability to keep moving despite heartbreak, fatigue, or confusion, is perhaps the greatest asset a person can develop. It is what allows individuals to not only survive, but thrive in the face of life's inevitable storms. Reflection is essential in the aftermath of failure. We must resist the urge to move on too quickly. Instead, we must sit with the moment. We must ask deep questions. What did I miss? What assumptions did I make? What warning signs did I ignore? What patterns do I see emerging in my failures? This introspection transforms failure into insight. Without it, we risk repeating the same mistakes. With it, we rise with intelligence, not just grit. Let's also remember that success and failure often exist side by side. Sometimes, what looks like failure from one angle is success from another. A musician may sell few albums, but inspire a generation. A teacher may never receive awards, but change hundreds of lives. A parent may struggle financially, but raise kind, resilient children. These are not failures. They are quiet trumps. The world may not always recognize them, but that does not diminish their worth. We must define success on our own terms, not merely by society's scoreboard. As we continue this journey, it is important to surround ourselves with people who understand the value of failure. Mentors, peers, and friends who do not judge us for our setbacks, but who challenge us to learn and grow from them. These people are anchors during storms. They remind us of our worth, even when outcomes fall short. And they speak truth when our inner critic is loudest. Community is critical in the face of failure. Alone, we may falter. Together, we rise. Failure does not need to be loud to be real. Some failures are public: job losses, bankruptcies, broken partnerships, while others are private, buried beneath the surface of daily life. A failed promise to oneself, a quiet surrender of a dream, a missed opportunity that no one else even noticed. These internal failures often go unacknowledged, yet they can weigh heaviest on the soul. And it is in confronting these silent failures that we find perhaps the most important kind of courage, the courage to be honest with ourselves, to admit that we fell short, to face it not with shame, but with a willingness to grow. This is how integrity is built, not by denying our private defeats, but by learning from them and changing. The pressure to avoid failure often stems from perfectionism. Perfectionism insists that anything less than ideal is unacceptable. It creates a false standard, one that is unattainable and unkind. In this mindset, even small missteps feel catastrophic. But perfectionism is not the path to excellence. It is a barrier. True growth is messy. It includes stumbles, pauses, revisions, and recalibrations. When we let go of the need to be perfect, we become more willing to take bold action. We try new approaches, we innovate, and we take responsibility for our learning curve. Excellence is not the absence of mistakes. It is the continual refinement that happens because of them. Making is so painful to me. Making even is so painful to me. Failure builds creativity. When one path collapses, we are forced to find another. That exploration process can lead to new ideas, methods, and innovations that would never have surfaced otherwise. When our comfort zone is disrupted, we think differently. This is why some of the most creative breakthroughs happen after failure. When everything you thought would work has failed, you're left with no option but to think outside the box. That tension, the need to adapt, is fertile ground for invention. Whether it's in art, technology, education, or personal life, creative reinvention is born through the discomfort of failure. There's a reason why some of the most powerful stories ever told center around failure. Today, redemption, resilience, grit. These themes move us because they reflect the real human journey. No one is inspired by a flawless path. We're inspired by those who struggle, fall, and rise again with new wisdom. Failure adds depth to our story. It adds layers of emotion, lessons learned, and character earned. In storytelling, we call this the arc, the transformation that occurs through hardship. You are the author of your life, and failure gives you the power to write a richer, more meaningful narrative. In the workplace, people often fear failure because of what it might cost them: status, income, reputation. But ironically, those who grow the fastest in their careers are often those who are willing to take calculated risks and accept responsibility for the outcomes. 8. Avoiding all mistakes may keep you safe, but it also limits your potential. Employers value problem solvers, innovators, and individuals who learn quickly. And nothing accelerates learning like a misstep that is analyzed and corrected. Professionals who embrace failure, adapt, and keep moving forward often surpass those who play it safe. Young people, especially, need to be taught that failure is not a verdict. It is a phase, a process, a step along the journey. The school system often rewards only the right answers, but life does not work that way. In life, we often have to try many wrong answers before we discover the right one. That's how you learn what works. That's how you learn what you value. Parents, teachers, and mentors should celebrate effort, resilience, and curiosity, not just results. When young people learn early that failure is feedback, they become fearless learners, capable of navigating a complex world. Hold on now. What if we just combined these two ideas? That could work. Sometimes the best solutions come from bringing together concepts that seemed unrelated at first.
Therapy, mentorship, journaling. These are tools that can help us process failure in a healthy way. When we build emotional resilience, failure becomes a bruise, not a scar. It stings, but it does not define. Let us not forget the power of community. When failure happens in isolation, it feels heavier. But when we are surrounded by people who believe in us, the weight becomes manageable. Seek out those who encourage truth and growth. Listen to those who challenge you, but still stand by you. Avoid those who mock your setbacks or use them to elevate themselves. Real friends walk with you through failure and remind you that your story is not over. They do not rush your healing, but they also do not let you stay down. They speak life into you when you forget how to speak it yourself. End of truth. Do not make your mind a second time. Even in the face of repeated failure, we must keep choosing action. Inaction guarantees nothing changes. Movement, even in uncertainty, is the only way forward. You may fail 10 times, but that 11th attempt could be the breakthrough. Consistency, not brilliance, wins the race. Keep showing up. Keep refining. Keep learning. Over time, your failure rate may not disappear, but your success rate will rise because you kept going. The world belongs not to the flawless, but to the faithful. Failure is not a punishment. It is a teacher. It is not a sign that you should stop. It is a signal that something must change. That may mean changing strategy, changing mindset, changing pace, or changing expectations. But you are never stuck. You are always one lesson away from progress. Let failure redirect you, not destroy you. Let it prune your path, not end your story. You have survived every failure so far. That means you are stronger than every moment that tried to break you. That is power. That is hope. Failure reminds us that we are human. It humbles us, strips away illusions, and reveals what we truly believe about ourselves and our journey. It pulls away the facade of control and forces us to reckon with uncertainty. And yet, in that vulnerability, we often find our greatest strength. Because the truth is, resilience isn't built when things are easy. It's built when things fall apart, and we choose to rebuild anyway. In that rebuilding process, we become more than who we were. We evolve, not in spite of failure, because of it. So many people have allowed one failure to define their whole life. They've allowed one rejection, one failed venture, one broken relationship to convince them that they are not enough. But your worth is not tied to a single event. You are not your worst day. You are not your lowest point. Life is a long, winding path, filled with detours and difficult seasons. The people who make it to the summit are not those who had a smooth journey, but those who kept walking, even when the road disappeared beneath their feet. The fear of failure paralyzes too many dreams before they even begin. People wait for the perfect moment, the guaranteed outcome, the complete plan, and in doing so, they never take the first step. But real success is born in movement. Clarity comes through action. Even when that action leads to failure, it also leads to data, experience, and momentum. Experiment by state. Peace. That's one. Experiment. You can course correct a moving ship. You cannot steer a vessel that refuses to leave the harbor. So, take the risk. Try the thing. Learn as you go. Trust that every setback is part of the path. Leadership, innovation, and impact are impossible without failure. The greatest minds of history, those who shaped science, technology, human rights, art, and literature,
All faced resistance. Many were told they were wrong, unqualified, or delusional, and many of their ideas were indeed flawed at first, but they kept refining. They kept testing. They failed, adapted, and moved forward. If they had stopped at the first sign of failure, we would not have the advances we enjoy today. Progress does not come from avoiding mistakes. It comes from building on them. Even in relationships, failure is part of intimacy. Real connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability carries the risk of disappointment. You will make mistakes with those you love. You will let people down, and they will let you down. But love deepens not when everything goes right, but when people show up after failure with accountability, forgiveness, and a desire to grow together. Don't fear the messiness of real connection. Embrace it as the soil in which trust, compassion, and maturity grow. Failure also grants us empathy. Once you've fallen, you know how it feels. You know the weight of disappointment, the sting of embarrassment, the fog of doubt. And when you rise from that place, you are better equipped to help others. You no longer judge people by their mistakes. You see them for their effort. You become the kind of leader, friend, and guide that others need. Because you've walked the valley yourself. Failure doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you kinder. As we reflect on everything failure has to offer, we must remember that it is not a one-time event. It is a recurring part of life. Each stage of your journey, whether it's building a career, raising a family, launching a business, or nurturing your personal growth, will involve moments of falling short. But if you meet those moments with humility, intention, and determination, you will rise with greater strength. You will become a person who cannot be broken by failure because you have trained yourself to use it as fuel. Let failure become your foundation. Let it teach you how to handle loss, how to navigate uncertainty, and how to trust yourself again. Let it sharpen your focus, ignite your creativity, and awaken your resolve. Don't waste your failures by hiding from them. Embrace them, study them, thank them, and then move forward, wiser, tougher, more prepared. In your life, there will be people who misunderstand you, people who question your path, people who see your failures and assume you are finished. Let them think what they will. You do not need to explain your process to everyone. The real proof of who you are will come with time. Your growth will speak. Your endurance will speak. That is a new fault for the problem of what you are. And eventually, your victories, earned through fire, will speak louder than any opinion ever could. Never forget this. You are not alone. Every human being who has ever done something meaningful has failed, often, painfully, repeatedly. But they did not stop, and neither should you. The greatness you seek is not found on a straight road. It is hidden in the rough terrain, the tough nights, the hard lessons. But it is there. And if you keep showing up, if you keep learning, growing, adjusting, and believing, it will be yours. In the end, failure is not the opposite of success. It is the bridge to it. Every fall is a step forward. Every setback, a signal to rise. If you commit to walking that path with your eyes open, your heart engaged, and your spirit undeterred, you will find that failure has not ruined you. It has revealed you. It has shown you what you're made of. And that, more than anything else, is the mark of someone who is destined not just to succeed, but to transform everything they touch. So go forward. Let failure follow you, not haunt you. Let it whisper, not dictate. Let it shape you, not shrink you. And when your time comes, when your efforts bear fruit, when your vision becomes reality, remember the ground beneath your success. It is paved with your resilience. It is built on your courage. Failure often brings us face to face with our identity. When things fall apart, we are forced to ask difficult questions. Who am I without my title, my role, or my results? What remains when what I built breaks down? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones. Because at our core, we are not what we produce. We are who we become through the struggle. Failure strips away the surface and reveals the substance. And when we find that we are still standing, still breathing, still willing to try, that is where our truest strength is discovered. We live in a culture that equates productivity with worth. Success is showcased, celebrated, and often edited for perfection. But rarely do we see the hours spent rebuilding, the private doubts, the moments of despair. Social media highlights the outcome, but seldom the process. This creates a false narrative that everyone else is winning while we are falling behind. But that is a lie. Everyone fails. Everyone doubts. Everyone struggles. What sets people apart is not how perfectly they live, but how persistently they move through failure toward growth. The pain of failure is real. It can lead to grief, the grief of what could have been, the dreams that didn't materialize, the time or effort that seemed wasted. It's okay to feel that. Ignoring the emotional impact of failure doesn't make you strong. It makes you numb. Give yourself space to mourn the loss, but don't unpack and live there. Use that emotional awareness to build empathy, to recognize your own humanity, and to move forward with gentleness toward yourself. You are allowed to be hurt and healing at the same time. At some point, you may feel like you failed too many times, that your chances are used up, that it's too late. But growth is not linear, and progress doesn't have an age limit. Some people find their stride in their 40s, 50s, or later. Some dreams are delayed because we needed time to become the person capable of holding them. The world tries to rush us, to convince us that we are running out of time. But purpose is not on a clock. As long as you are alive, it is not too late. Your story is still being written, and failure is just a chapter, not the conclusion. Look at nature. A seed must break apart underground before it can rise into the light. A caterpillar must dissolve inside its cocoon before it emerges as a butterfly. These processes look like destruction, but they are transformation. Your failure may feel like an ending, but it could be a beginning. Sometimes life is not falling apart, it's falling into place. But you cannot see that if you refuse to go through the process. Trust that even in this darkness, something inside you is growing, rebuilding, evolving. One of the most powerful mindsets you can adopt is this: I am not starting over from scratch. I am starting over from experience.
That single shift can transform how you view setbacks. Failure does not erase your past efforts. It refines them. You are not the same person you were at the beginning. You have new insight, new resilience, new clarity. That means your next attempt carries more power than the last. Don't diminish what you've learned. Use it, stand on it,
Let it be the foundation of your next step forward. Let's not forget that systems can fail too. Sometimes your personal failure is tied to broader issues: inequity, exclusion, injustice. You may be navigating a world that was not built to support you. That doesn't make your effort less meaningful. It makes it even more powerful. Your persistence in the face of structural barriers is an act of courage. And when you rise, you pave the way for others who have been held back in similar ways. Failure, in this context, becomes a form of resistance because you refuse to stay down, even when the odds were stacked. Failure teaches us humility. It reminds us that we don't know everything, and we don't control everything. That truth is uncomfortable, but freeing. Because once we accept that perfection is not the goal, we can focus on progress. We stop obsessing over appearances and start investing in real change. Humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means seeing yourself clearly. It's the quiet strength of being teachable. And teachability is one of the greatest assets a person can carry through life. The greatest leaders, creators, and changemakers are often the ones who failed hardest and most often. Why? Because they were willing to take bold risks. They didn't let fear of failure stop them from acting. And even when they failed, they adjusted, they listened, they learned, they got back up. They didn't fake perfection. They modeled perseverance. Leadership is not about never falling. It's about showing others how to rise. To overcome failure, we must learn the art of reflection. Reflection is not self-criticism. It's strategic review. It asks, what went wrong? What can I learn? What will I do differently next time? Reflection turns pain into power. Without it, we are doomed to repeat the same mistakes. With it, we become wiser, sharper, more intentional. Build time into your life to look back, not to dwell, but to grow. Journal it, talk it out, own it, then walk forward with new direction. And let us speak honestly about persistence. Persistence is not glamorized. It's not exciting or flashy. It's waking up when you don't feel like it, showing up when there's no applause, trying again when you're tired. But persistence builds legacy. Every day you push forward, you are reinforcing your identity as someone who doesn't quit. And one day, those small, unseen efforts will compound into something great, something worthy, something that was built not by avoiding failure, but by enduring it. Your failures are not holding you back, they are forming you. Something that was built not by avoiding failure, but by enduring it. Your failures are not holding you back. They are forming you back. They are forming you. They are giving you the grit, the clarity, the emotional strength that you will need at the next level. Do not despise the process. Let it shape you. Let it fortify you. And when your breakthrough comes, you will not be surprised. You will be ready.
Something that was built not by avoiding failure, but by enduring it. Your failures are not holding you back. They are forming you. They are giving you the grit, the clarity, the emotional strength that you will need at the next level. Do not despise the process. Let it shape you. Let it fortify you. And when your breakthrough comes, you will not be surprised. You will be ready.
Sometimes, failure is not loud. It's not a dramatic event or a public collapse. Sometimes, it's quiet. It shows up as burnout, as disinterest, as slowly losing the spark that once lit you up inside. This type of failure is subtle and dangerous because it can go unnoticed for a long time. But it still matters. When you feel yourself drifting from purpose, losing joy in the work, or falling into patterns of avoidance, pay attention. These are signals, not signs of defeat, but invitations to realign, to pause, to ask deeper questions.
Failure is not always about doing something wrong. It's often about not doing what's most right for you. Your values, your peace, your boundaries, they matter just as much as your achievements. A person can be winning in the eyes of the world and still be failing themselves. They can be successful and deeply unhappy. So redefine what success means to you. Make room for balance, for fulfillment, for integrity. Let failure redirect you toward a version of success that doesn't just look good, but feels good. One that honors your whole self. One of the most painful parts of failure is watching others pass you by. Seeing someone else get the promotion, the opportunity, the recognition. But comparison is a thief. It steals your joy, your energy, and your clarity. Your path is not their path. Their success is not your failure. And your time will come. Not if you follow their script, but if you write your own. Stay focused on your lane. Build in silence. Grow in private. Let your work speak for itself when the time is right. There's a strange blessing in failure. It removes the fear of failing. Once you've hit rock bottom and survived, you realize that failure didn't destroy you. It awakened you. You become braver, more experimental. You start to take risks, not because you're reckless, but because you know you can recover. That kind of freedom is powerful. It turns fear into fuel and pressure into presence. You stop living for approval and start living from purpose. Mentorship is another gift that often emerges from failure. When you've been through something difficult, you can guide others through it too. Your story becomes someone else's survival map. You offer not just advice, but understanding. You speak not from theory, but from truth. The world needs mentors who've been tested, who failed and still chose to believe. Your scars become sacred. They mark the places where healing happened, where learning began, and where wisdom grew. In the long run, your relationship with failure will determine the limits of your growth. If you fear it, you'll avoid anything uncertain. You'll play small, stay safe, and never truly stretch. But if you embrace it, you'll expand. You'll discover parts of yourself that only emerge under pressure. Your creativity, your resilience, your intuition, they all grow in the aftermath of failure. So run toward your potential, even if it means running into failure. The risk is worth the reward. And finally, remember this. You are allowed to be proud of yourself, even when things aren't perfect. You are allowed to feel successful, even while rebuilding. You are allowed to love yourself in the middle of the mess. The journey is not about flawlessness. It's about fullness. Living fully, feeling deeply, learning constantly, and showing up over and over with heart. Failure doesn't disqualify you. It refines you. You are still worthy. You are still becoming. And your story is far from over. Failure also has a way of exposing what truly matters. When plans fall through, when status is lost, or when dreams are delayed, you begin to see clearly what is essential. You realize that it's not the title that defines you, but your ability to stand with grace and rebuild with dignity. You begin to value character over credentials, inner peace over outer praise, and relationships over recognition. In this way, failure is not just a loss, it is a lens that brings life into focus. Another profound lesson failure teaches is about control, or the lack of it. No matter how meticulous your plan, how diligent your work, or how pure your intentions, things can still fall apart. That's not a reflection of your inadequacy. That's the nature of life. There are too many variables, too many moving parts, and too many people involved. You cannot control outcomes, but you can control your effort, your mindset, and your response. That is where your power lies. Read me, chapter 5. And in embracing that truth, you become less reactive and more resilient. You also learn through failure that discomfort is not something to run from. It's something to lean into. Every time you face a challenge that pushes you outside your comfort zone, you grow. Growth never happens in ease. Muscles strengthen under tension. Minds expand under pressure, and spirits deepen in the fire of experience. The discomfort of failure is a signal, not to quit, but to adapt, to stretch, and to reach higher than you did before. Too often, we underestimate the time required to achieve something meaningful. We expect quick results, instant feedback, fast success, and when it doesn't happen, we label the effort a failure. But time is a necessary ingredient for greatness. Trees don't bear fruit in a single season. Mastery takes years. Character takes decades. When you understand this, failure doesn't feel final. It feels like a checkpoint. A moment to pause, recalibrate, and continue with greater depth. Even when you feel like you've exhausted all options, failure asks you to become resourceful. It forces you to think differently, to innovate, to strip away assumptions and find a better way. Some of the greatest inventions, movements, and breakthroughs came not from brilliance, but from necessity. They came from people who refused to give up, even when the conventional path collapsed. They carved a new one, and that path began at the doorstep of failure. We must also recognize that failure, when accepted with honesty, allows us to take radical responsibility. Not blame, not shame, but ownership. It's easy to point outward when things fall apart. But true power comes when we look inward and ask, what can I learn from this? What was within my control? What will I change next time? Taking responsibility gives us agency. It moves us from victimhood to leadership. And in that space, we grow exponentially. Let's talk about identity. Many people fear failure because they tie their identity to success. If I win, I am worthy. If I lose, I am nothing. But that is a dangerous equation, because the moment you fail, your entire sense of self crumbles. The antidote? Detach your identity from the outcome. You are not your results. You are your values, your effort, your integrity, your persistence. These are internal, and therefore unshakable. When your identity is rooted in these deeper truths, failure cannot dismantle you. One of the most beautiful things failure offers is a second chance, a chance to do it better, smarter, and with more heart. The first attempt might have been driven by ego, fear, or external validation. But the second attempt, it comes from wisdom, from depth, from a deeper connection to what really matters. It's no longer about proving something, it's about building something. And that shift creates results that last. You'll also discover that failure tends to clarify your support system. You also have to fix. The second attempt is simply one more failure. This cannot be a total reason. It's simple. It's not. Some people will disappear when you fall. They were only around for the highlight reel. Others will surprise you by showing up, not with solutions, but with presence. They sit with you in the ashes. They remind you who you are when you forget. These people are rare. Treasure them. And be that kind of person for someone else. Your failure can make you a better friend, a deeper leader, and a more compassionate human being. At some point, you may even begin to thank your failures, not just for what they taught you, but for what they protected you from. Some doors closed for a reason. Some plans collapsed because they were too small. Some relationships ended because they were misaligned with your purpose. What you thought was a loss was actually redirection. And once you embrace that, you begin to trust the unfolding of your journey, even when it doesn't look the way you imagined. Failure is also an incredible teacher of self-compassion. It's easy to extend grace to others, but hard to extend it to ourselves. We berate ourselves, relive our mistakes, and rehearse our regrets. But you don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You don't need to succeed at every turn to deserve kindness. Speak to yourself as you would to a friend, especially after failure. That kindness is not weakness. It's the fuel that allows you to rise and try again. You'll come to learn that failure is the birthplace of creativity. When the traditional path no longer works, you are invited to forge your own. You begin to imagine new possibilities, new structures, new methods. You stop trying to fit in and start focusing on standing out. Artists, entrepreneurs, innovators, all of them lean into failure as part of their process. Because they know that creativity is not born in perfection, it's born in the mess. As you move forward, there will be setbacks, again and again. That's not a flaw in the system. It is the system. There will be detours, delays, and disappointments. But each time you rise, you are building something bigger than success. You are building credibility with yourself. You are becoming someone who keeps promises to their growth, their purpose, their future. And that internal credibility is the foundation of every great achievement. So let this be your truth. You will fail, and you will rise. You will get knocked down, and you will stand again. Not in spite of the failure, but because of it. You will become someone whose story inspires others, not because it's perfect, but because it's real, because it's honest, because it shows what's possible when someone refuses to give up. You are not finished. You are not broken. You are in progress, and failure is not the end of your story. It's the most powerful chapter yet.